Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Seth, and this is my Will and Sword Coast Sailor roll dice deck. So the first time I played it was last night, and I finished it. I think the last order of cards came in like Tuesday, no Wednesday. So it was complete by Wednesday, and I played it last night. Today's Friday. I just wanted to go over it. So just like my other couple ones, I have some cards set out into different, kind of piles that are just different things like ramp and removal and stuff like that. You can already see some of them here, so I'm just going to get right into it. So for ramp, of course we have Soul Ring. I just didn't get it out. We actually have some kind of group hug elements in this deck, but it's not a group hug deck at all. But we do have Victory Chimes and Spectral Searchlight, which allows any player to add mana. This one will untap on each player's turn, and I can give anybody colorless mana, and this one I can just give anybody any color mana. So, if people want to not come at me, or if I have these out, then it incentivizes them to, maybe we can make a deal. They won't come at me. I won't, remove something that they have or swing at them. But yeah, it's just like, oh, I can give you mana. Then we've got Component Pouch. Now, this is a 3-drop that actually adds 2 mana, but you have to roll a d20 and then remove component counters, component counter to add those 2 mana, but it gets me to roll dice, which is great. I should probably touch on what Will actually does. So, Will, whenever I roll one or more dice, instead I roll that many plus 1, and then I ignore the lowest number. Whenever I roll one or more dice, I put a counter on him, and then the background I have with him, if the opponent I'm attacking has the most life out of my opponents, then they can't block Will. Will's unblockable. So yeah, that helps me. I'm just trying to roll dice, build up Will, and then swing with a bunch of damage effectively that they can't really do anything against. But yeah, Component Pouch helps a lot, because even if I don't need the mana, I can just still put more counters on it and roll the dice, which builds up Will. And if I do need the mana, it's 2 mana of different colors, which is great. Next, we got Hoarding Ogre, which is a 4-drop for a 3/3, and whenever he attacks, I create treasure tokens depending on what I roll. And since Will's out, it gives me advantage on that roll, which means I ideally will get more rather than less. Vexing Puzzle Box is actually really fun. I think it's the most expensive card that I had to buy for this deck. But whenever I roll one or more dice, any rolls that are not ignored, I put that amount onto Vexing Puzzle Box. It gets that amount of charge counters. And then I can tap to add a mana of any color, and then I roll a d20, and then I can later remove 100 charge counters, and I just tutor an artifact, which I do have a couple of good artifacts in this deck. So this is really just great to have. It just slowly builds up over time, and it's just a great mana rock. I mean, standard 3-drop for any color. That's usually how it goes. Another sort of group huggy card, Bucknard's Ever Full Purse. 2-drop, tap 1, and then I roll a d4 and create that many treasure tokens. I get advantage on it, and then it passes the player to the right, so it's just going around the table, not really harming anybody. I mean, obviously I would get the most use out of it because I get to build up Will, and I have the higher chance of getting more treasures, but yeah, everybody wins. That's it for ramp. We will move on to some just dice rolling cards, so cards that let me roll dice. Here is the artifact that I would mainly tutor off of Vexing Puzzle Box if I don't already have it out. This is Wand of Wonder. It's a 4-drop artifact with a 4 mana ability. So for 4 mana and tap it, I roll a d20, and then each opponent exiles the top card of his or her library until they exile an instant or sorcery. And then I, roll a d20. If it's a 1 to 9, X is 1. If it's a 10 to 19, X is 2. And if it's 20, X is 3. And X is the amount of cards in exile that I can cast for free that turn. So all my opponents exile their cards, and then I'm allowed to cast either 1, 2, or 3 of them just for free. It really depends on what my opponents have, what their decks, like what they're running, what their decks are, because it doesn't usually synergize super well. But if you don't cast the cards off of Wand of Wonder, then you just exile them, and you don't let your opponents have them. So either way, it's pretty good. Then we've got Will's Reversal. It's basically just redirect spell, except you have the chance to copy it, which actually ideally, Will's built up a bit, and then I get advantage on the roll. So what most likely will happen will I not only choose a new target for the speller ability, but I also copy it, and I can choose new targets for the copy as well. So really good. Just depends on, like I said again, what the trigger or spell or ability is. But yeah. Netherese Puzzle Ward, at the beginning I roll a d4, at the beginning of my upkeep I roll a d4 and then scry X, and whenever I roll the die's highest natural result, I draw a card. So if I roll a d20, I get a 20, I get to draw. If I roll a d4, get a 4, I get to draw. Anything that I roll, if I get the highest possible result on that roll, I get to draw a card, and it's allowing me to roll at the beginning of my turn every single turn, so, or not every single turn, every single one of my turns. So great value out of it to build up Will. Reckless Endeavor, roll 2d12 and choose one result, and then I deal damage equal to that one of the results to target creature, and the other I create that many treasure tokens. I think that actually I'm pretty sure this was more expensive than Vexing Puzzle Box, for good reason. I mean, for 7 mana, you have the chance of literally getting 12 treasures, or dealing however much damage to a creature. But yeah, no, great card. Gale's Redirection, exile a card. As long as it remains exiled, you can spend mana to cast it, or you just exile it and cast it for free as long as it remains exiled. I did use this last night, I think against, I cannot remember what spell it was. It was a 6-drop that fetched 3 basic lands and gained 7 life, and it was huge. I was not doing great on life because, Izzet does not have a ton of life gain, so that was pretty big. Yeah. Great card, 5-drop, whatever. Delina Wildmage, whenever she attacks, I, roll dice, and I can create a copy I can create a non-legendary copy of another creature, that is also tapped and attacking, that I have to exile at the end of combat. But if I get a high enough roll, if I get a roll to 15 to 20, then I not only create one of those tokens, but I roll again. So I have the chance to just continuously make these tokens over and over and over again off of Delina. It doesn't work off of Delina, like I can't copy Delina herself. I can, but it's not really worth it, because if I do copy her, then she'll already enter attacking, so I don't get the attack trigger, because it's when you declare her as an attacker, technically. But still, if I have, like, a couple good creatures out, then she's good to have, because I can just, more tokens, more damage. But yeah, that's it for those. Those are just basic dice rolling cards. Not really a theme to that. We have cards that work off of dice rolling now that just, interact with it. So Monitor is actually an Unfinity card, but it is legal in Commander. And then once each turn, I may pay 1 mana to reroll 1 or more dice I rolled. So if I roll, and I'm rolling an advantage, so if I roll 2d20 and I just get really crappy rolls, which I did last night, I think I got a 1 and a 2, which was just not good. But I can, once a turn, pay 1 more mana to re-roll those dice, which is pretty huge, actually, if I just, get really bad rolls. And then Faraday, whenever I roll 1 or more dice, she gains Flying and Menace until end of turn, and if any of them are 10 or higher, I draw a card. I think she's the only Izzet card in this deck, but she's just great. She's a good draw outlet, she's good for damage, and, the Menace is nice. And for 4 mana, just interacting with the dice rolling is pretty good. Trying to think of what to do next. I'll just do these two. So these two cards are Pixie Guide and Barbarian Class, and it's mainly just for the fact that they will give me more advantage. So with Will, if I'm rolling 1d20, I instead roll 2 and ignore the lowest, so I take the highest. But with these, they do the exact same thing. So with Pixie Guide, excuse me, with Pixie Guide, she just grants me advantage. I still ignore the lowest, so instead I would roll 3d20 and ignore the lowest 2, and same thing with Barbarian Class. If these all 3 were out, I would roll 4 dice and ignore the lowest 3 rolls. Barbarian Class also lets me, if I level this up, then it gives my creatures haste, and whenever I roll 1 or more dice, target creature I control gets +2/+0 and gains Menace, which is really good if I'm going to buff up Will even more off of Barbarian Class. He doesn't really need the Menace, because ideally I'm swinging at the player with the highest life total, so he would be unblockable. But in the event that, the threat isn't the player with the highest life total, Menace is pretty good. Then I just have a removal card right here, Earth Cult Elemental. When he enters, I roll a d20, and then I make each player sacrifice a permanent, each opponent sacrifices a permanent, or each opponent sacrifices two permanents. I played this last night, and I played it, rolled, I got a 1 and a 2, so I had to sacrifice something as well. And then I bounced it back to hand, or I exiled it, I blinked it, I exiled it, returned, and then I still made everybody, each player sacrifice a permanent, so I still had to do it. I just didn't have great rolls those 2 times, but it is what it is. Next up, token gens. So Feywild Trickster is whenever I roll 1 or more dice, I create a blue fairy with flying, or blue fairy dragon with flying. Just good to have some blockers, especially with flying. Swarming Goblins, when it enters, I can either make 1, 2, or 3 1/1 red goblins, and then ideally I'm bouncing this because I have a lot of bounce spells in this deck. Even some bounce creatures that just, when they entered, do that. And then Rite of the Dragoncaller, whenever I cast an instant or sorcery and make a 5/5 red dragon with flying. This is good not only for the token gen, but also like if Will is pretty big, or if a Will is getting really scary on the board, then if I have this out, it kind of takes the heat off of it. It's like, oh, so now he's making 5/5 flying instead of just building up his commander. So maybe it incentivizes not to just, kill spell Will. But yeah, no, great card. Next up, we've just got some draw. So Archmage of Runes and Archmage Emeritus. They both have whenever I cast an instant or sorcery, I draw a card. This guy has whenever I cast or copy, I draw a card. And Archmage of Runes makes it so that my instants and sorceries cost 1 less. And it's not going to really matter. I have kind of a treasure theme in this deck, so I'm making a decent bit of mana, but still, making stuff cheaper is never, bad at all. So for a 4-drop and a 5-drop, pretty good for the draw. I also have this card here. It's another Infinity card. It's, I believe, the second of 3 Infinity cards I have in this deck, and it's called Priority Voting. It's whenever I roll a dice, I reveal the top card of my library, and I only do it once a turn. If the card I revealed has less mana value than the result of the dice I rolled, then I can exile it and play it until the end of that turn. So, yeah, it just gives me, I forget what it's called, on Architect, what the category would be, but, when you exile stuff and you're just able to cast it, I don't know if it's counted as, draw or just hand or something. I can't remember, but yeah, I just exile it and then I have more options to play. And then finally, I just have some these are just not really finishers, but more combat-y, damage, I guess you could say. So Clay Golem, I probably should have put this with Earth Cult Elemental because it's more destruction, but it's more removal than anything. 4-drop 4/4, and then for 6 mana, I roll a d8, and I Monstrosity X, and then when he becomes monstrous, I get to destroy target permanent. It's pretty good. A lot of the stuff in here is just bouncing creatures, so being able to destroy any permanent on the battlefield is nice. And just having a big creature is great. Iron Mastiff, whenever he attacks, I roll a d20, and for each player being attacked, I ignore all but the highest roll, so it gives itself advantage effectively. And then it can deal damage to either players, opponents, or yeah, anybody. Maddening Hex is really, really great. I enchant a player with it, and then whenever they cast a non-creature spell, I roll d6 at advantage, obviously. They take that much damage, and then it goes to another opponent at random. So it's bouncing between my opponents a lot. I think I played it last night, and it was just going in a circle between my opponents, even though it is at random. But, yeah, it's really great because they don't hold it for long, but it does do a decent amount of ping damage, so love this card. And then Chaos Dragon is also really fun. It's a 3-drop for a 4/4 flying haste. It's goated, kind of. It has to attack each combat. It's not technically goated. And then at the beginning of combat on my turn, each opponent, or I guess it is each player. Oh, I didn't realize that. I should have also rolled a d20. But if one or more opponents had the highest result, it cannot attack them or planeswalkers they control. So I make my opponents roll. Whoever gets the highest, if they get the highest, then I cannot attack them or stuff they control. And then finally, we have Critical Hit, which is just a 2-drop. I give a target creature double strike, probably will, just to buff them up some more. And then whenever I roll a d20 and I get a natural 20, I return it from graveyard to hand. I have not been able to get this off. I also don't even think I played it last night. I know I had it in hand, but I didn't play it at all because I just thought it would be really mean because Will was at a point where he was basically just a one-hit kill anyways. So it would have just been way overkill, but yeah, no, that's about it. I'm really happy with the deck. The 2 games I played yesterday, they were just really great games. I think I won the second one. The first one, I think I stole a card. I think I stole Toxic Deluge, and I was at 13 life, and my opponent was at, I want to say 20-something, and I paid all my life. I just wanted the game to be over. It was so atrocious, but yeah, that is about it. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.